For every career woman, the most important question is, how do I climb up the corporate ladder? There has been the lifelong debate, can a woman have it all? A home, children, and then a successful career. You are welcome to Chapters, and on today's episode, we seek to explore that notion. And I'm very excited because my guest today has been there, she's done that. She is the founder of the Lighthouse Network, she is a corporate communications executive, and she's also an author, the author of today's book, where we draw today's conversation, The Pressure Cooker, Mrs. Nkiru Olumide-Ojo. You are welcome to Chapters.
Thank you for having me, Tony.
Thank you
so
for
much.
being here. I came across your book. I think I saw it online. Someone sent me a message. I said, oh, she's written a book. I was like, I've known about you. So I said, I must read this book. And as usual, for most of my books, like Chapters books, I've read it like a textbook.
Clearly,
and I put my comments.
Clearly.
I try my best. Amazing book. And I like the fact that you were truthful, you were open, and you laid it as it is. But let's start from the beginning. Why did you feel the need to write this book?
I wrote the book because I was struggling. I was struggling with many things, and I wasn't finding the right answers. So I was struggling with being a mother, a wife, a good friend, a good daughter-in-law, and I just felt really under pressure. And, you know, I go out and I'll say there's a women's gathering and I find this really nice looking women like you, Tony, all dressed up. And
like
as soon as they say any questions, my hands are up and I'm like, hey, madam, please, how are you managing it? How are you? And, you know, no one was giving me any answers. So I thought, you know what? I mean, I can start at least expressing myself and expressing my frustration. So I started writing a column in Business Day called The Pressure Cooker. And, you know, years on, it metamorphed into a book that is The Pressure Cooker.
And so this was you saying, if nobody is going to speak,
yes.
I am going to speak. And one of the things that you said that I liked from the beginning, you said experience is not the best teacher. Learning from the success and failures of others is always faster and usually less painful.
True.
So I can pick the book and say, you know what, she was there, this happened, she fell, this is how she did it. Fantastic. And I'd like us to go through the notions of, because many women are watching, people are watching, and like you, people are going through, they want to be happy in their marriages and they want to have children that you look at 25 and say, I was there for my child.
True.
And you still want to be at the office and still be on top of your game and not saying, because of this, I have to rush home to pick the child, I have to. So how have you done it in all these years?
Okay, so I'd like to stand confident and say, you know, I've done it. I even have the T-shirt to show for it, but not in that manner. It still remains a constant struggle. But what my book and my experiences have helped me do is find sort of the right system to help me give more of myself in the area that is important. I think that one thing that I learned amidst my struggle is some things would have to give. You want to be all of these things, but it's not always going to work out like that. That's a lot of pressure. So as I mentioned, I wanted to be a good daughter, a good daughter-in-law, a good mother-in-law, a good friend. And I'd have a typical day of, in the morning, after you do all the school runs, you run to work, you're working really hard, you have a late night out, and sometimes potentially an event. And then you run back home, and after you've done all of these things, there's a wedding on Saturday. Guess what? You are going to have to miss the wedding.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're going to have to miss the wedding. Someone once said, and my old boss once said that sometimes she thinks the only three people important in a wedding are the man, the woman, and the pastor. You've heard it before?
No, that's what I think as well.
I found it quite cruel when I heard it. I thought, but that's not fair. They need all of us. And then one day I thought, no, they don't need all of us. We can't keep on. We're going to die. So some things had to give. And those were the things I learned. I think that one of the things that, and when I started writing the column, one of my biggest pieces with the biggest responses was when I said I missed PTA. And please, can people not miss PTA? It's a bad advice. You should not miss parent conferencing. But, you know, I had struggled because I missed PTA and I was feeling so guilty. So I wrote in the column and I said, hey guys, last week I missed PTA. I feel really bad. And 50 people replied, me too, I miss PTA. Me too, I miss PTA.
So let's start from chapter 1. You talked about being a mother.
Right.
And even before you had children, you always agonized at, you know, you're very career-driven.
Oh, really?
I think so. I think, you know, one of the things you said was
True.
find what is important to you. Different things are important to different women. So I believe that for you, work.
Yeah.
And you even said from when you were a teenager,
Yes.
maybe to run out of the house, you always wanted. So work is personally very important to you. So you always thought, when my children come, how would I handle it?
True.
And a lot of women have fallen off the career wagon because that time came, children came, it was just hard to balance. How did you handle that season of life?
Okay, so my children are 13 and 10 and a half each.
You're a professional.
And 10. And when they were, you know, the age that you described, it was a struggle, a real struggle. I think that every mother who works, or every mother who has to be away from her child, carries what I call the mommy guilt. I think is a permanent guilt you feel for being away from your children. So I think if you can understand that first, then it puts you in a better place. So as an example, when I was carrying mommy guilt, and if the nanny called to say, oh, my son fell off a chair, I'm thinking, yeah, if I was at home, he wouldn't have fallen. But that's not true. Children fall because children are on restless and children play. So I had to first rid myself of the mommy guilt. Then the next thing I did was to seek a support system. Yes. People, I find, and I'm not sure where people get this Amazon hero, I'm a superwoman. Why? You know, so they want to do, I mean, I go to talk to young girls, and one day I went to talk to a couple of young girls, and I said to them, you work, you keep this schedule. Why don't you, on my phone I have Oniru fish, Oniru pepper woman. And I call her, I say, I'm coming. I want to warn you, let that fish be washed. Don't come and give me the one that when I get home.
Now starts washing.
That's the problem. Actually, when I told them, they said to me, but it tastes different. I said, oh, really? Oh, right. Wow. I thought to myself, I can't help you. So I think that I was wise enough to find a support system. So find things that can cut the work into half. And so with time, you'd find that pepper woman that you trust and you know she won't wash your pepper with dirty water. Yes. So she washes it and she blends it. When you hunt, she's out.
Just comes out with the pepper.
And so that was one, structuring yourself in a way that, would I say your money worked for you in a way. And then I also thought finding the right support system. I hear people say, you know, I'm quarreling with my mother-in-law, I can't leave. I'm like, your mother, what business do you have quarreling with her? You better make her your friend, she can help you. She can help your destiny.
Fantastic advice.
You know, and I'd call on my mother-in-law, I'd call on my mother. My dad was alive at the time, so I would call and say, can mommy come just for 3 days? Wow. I pay the tickets, please just help me, let her come. So it's just pulling on everyone. Don't have those hang-ups if, like you say, you are career-driven and work or business is important to you.
And the next one that caught me was chapter 2, get over yourself and get ahead. And your first line said, when it comes to getting ahead, it has been your experience that the first and greatest battle you will fight is yourself. Explain that.
So I think that women struggle with two things. One, I think that we often underplay our abilities. For some reason, that's just how we're wired. So if you don't already succeed in your mind, and I always have this vivid example of interviewing. I had a role I needed to fill of someone who had a 10-year experience, who needed 10 years of experience, working experience. And I had a boy who came to interview. He had 1 year experience. In fact, it was out of decency and decorum that I let him finish the interview. And you know, when he finished, I said to him, dude, are you aware that this is a job for someone who has a 10-year experience? And he said, oh, yeah, I mean, I have 1 year experience, but I think if you try me out, I'm thinking, how does one try you out with this?
10-year experience, again, it's 1 year, and he was confident.
Yes. And then I had this girl who had 7 years of experience, and she said to me, you know, I really know that this is what you require is a 10-year experience. But I
Wow.
think that with I'm like, wow, what a
the
world.
difference.
You've got to get out of your own way. You have to. You have to. You have to choose how you present yourself. You've got to aspire beyond even your abilities. Now, that's on one hand. And then let's fast forward to the women who sometimes get in their own way because they think way much higher than they ought to think of themselves. And that is actually a problem in itself. And just so that I'm not needling at anyone, I use myself as an example. I remember when I went to do an interview, and I think I had post 1 year NYST experience, and I had told anyone who cared that I wanted to work in Virgin Atlantic, and a friend of mine had said that, oh, he saw this ad in Punch, bless his soul, Jaya Boderi of blessed memory. He had called me to say, oh, Kix, I saw this, and I really think it's for you. In fact, as soon as I saw it, I thought it was for you, blah, blah, blah. In the end, I went, I applied, they called me for a test. When I got there, it was Maryland.
The crowd.
Crowds. So I called him and I said, we didn't have mobile phones then. I called him and I said, you know, I went for the first round today, and there were just so many people, but I have post NYSC 1 year experience. How can I be in that
crowd?
He said, my dear, what's the matter with you? What's this post NYSC experience? It means nothing. 1 year, you better get there and
get over yourself.
And I'm so thankful because that did me a world of good that I was able to listen to that.
In fact, he said, don't think too highly of yourself.
Correct. He did. And if I didn't have someone who helped me realize that 1 year post NYSC experience meant nothing, I probably would have missed all that important opportunity.
And you actually got that job.
Yes, I did.
From
yes,
that.
I did. Yes, I did.
And what you say is actually truly important. Sometimes we put ourselves on a pedestal.
We do.
I have a master's. In a world where there are many masters these days, come off the high horse. Humble yourself.
And get started.
Wow. Okay, we have to go on a short break right now. We'll come back to continue this very interesting conversation. We'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back to Chapters. And on today's episode, we're talking about how, as a woman, we can grow in our careers and just whatever success is to you, to be the success that you want to be. Looking at it through the eyes of the book, The Pressure Cooker, Lessons from a Woman at Work. And yes, we are learning from a woman at work, Mrs. Nkiru Olumide-Ojo. So before we went on the break, you've taken us, we should get over ourselves.
Indeed.
Yes. Now, there's a phrase you wrote in the book, and I said you had to explain this. You said, it is possible to be smart and hardworking. Two very important things, and yet fail to get ahead at work.
Yes.
How is that possible?
Well, I think that if you're smart and hardworking and you are missing EQ, it'll be very difficult for you to, emotional intelligence and emotional quotient. It'll be difficult for you to make a success. So you can go into an organization, as an example, and you're not aware or you ignore what the corporate culture is, you're going to struggle. And if I was going to use the Brits, the British are not people who say all that they mean all the time. So typically what you'll get is, oh, no, it's okay, it's all right. You've got to actually pause to think and say, does he mean okay out of politeness, or does he mean okay at the first level but not okay at second level? So you've got to think. And I think similarly, if you manage a business as well, you've got to be able to read, have a sixth sense that enables you to read in between the line, know how to manage people. And I think that hard work and being smart are beyond the skills that you need for success.
That's actually very thought-provoking, because some people just think, I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I can do it, I can run around, and you're there for 10 years and you've not moved ahead. And you're wondering, but why is this not working?
True.
Okay. Listen. The next one, sexism at the workplace.
Yes.
And a lot of people like to, either they want to say this doesn't happen, or, I don't know, we just never tell ourselves the truth. So I was glad, in fact, you tagged it the boys' club.
Yes.
And getting past the boys' club. Now, for you, how did this pan out in your career?
The boys' club is existent, and I think that it always depends on how much you are able to manage and how much you are able to break through. I think that the first thing I did for myself was to see if I could at least find a common ground. I I mean, don't drink alcohol. And then I thought, well, if alcohol is a binder, let's try football. So I at least found the
you
basics.
started watching football?
I wasn't watching, but at least
But
I
at
knew
least
which
you
league
can
won.
say,
I could have
you
a
know,
decent...
Liverpool and Manchester United.
True. I could shout when everybody was shouting. So that's not all that lets you in, but at least it was a first level conversation.
And I think that's where EQ comes in. Yes. To understand
Yes.
that, you know what, I'm smart, but there's some things that would at least open the heart and this door to me.
True.
Beyond just the work that we are doing.
Correct. True.
Wow. Fantastic.
True.
Fantastic. And then the next one that I liked, your partner and
you.
That excites?
It does. It definitely does.
So this is a very, I think that regardless of what you do, especially if you are married, if you're single, you can fly. But you need to make this work and make career work.
Agree.
How have you made it work?
Well, I mean, I went to speak somewhere, and after speaking, someone said to me, "You've been lucky, Joe." So maybe I have been in a lot of ways. I've got a really great and supportive partner. I often say that my husband is kind, and he'll say to me every time, and I digress, every time I'm giving a testimony in church, and then a woman will come and say, "You know, my husband is very kind." He'll be like, when they finish using the man's head, he'll say he's kind. So don't describe me with that adjective. I'm not kind, but my husband is a good man, and he holds a 9-to-5 job himself.
Wow.
So we met when we were both,
working.
starting out and working.
Work.
And I think that it was clear that my work was important, and I mean, I pitched it as such. And he has been very accommodating.
So from the beginning, when you met, you made him know that my work is important to me.
Yes. And someone said to me, "Did you sit down and have this
this conversation?"
So I think that if I were to marry today, then I would have that sort of conversation to say, "Hey, dude, sit down, let's sit down." But I didn't. I think that my expressions and the passion for which I used to work helped him to see that work was important. I mean, you only read this book to tell me that, oh my goodness, you're very career-driven. So
that's actually true. So for someone who was in your space and could see you every day, I get that.
I think that word.
And let's go to the next point, the woman and the woman. That's what I call that chapter. For some weird reason, you called it you and the next woman. But for me, and I had, in one of the episodes we've done on this show, it was a case of, they always say we are our best, is it worst enemy or best enemy, whichever one it is. I don't believe that. You have worked in places where women have had to pull you up, you've had to pull women up, and I'm sure you've also had the negative experiences. But what would you say about women working and supporting and helping women?
I have a lot to say. I think that when I think about it, it's first, I think that women do have a mindset about other women. So I think that women stereotype other women, and I'll explain it. So if you said to a fellow woman, would you like a male boss or a female boss? They say to you,
by default, a male boss, by default.
A male boss. And then you ask her why. Actually, she doesn't know why. Sometimes she says, I don't know. Then she says, he'll be kinder. How do you know? How do you know? So I think that we stereotype each other, and that fuels the wider stereotype. That's one. I think sometimes that we ourselves, women, take advantage of the other woman. So we employ a lady today, and then she comes to say, I'm late to work because my baby was unwell. Now, that's fine on day one.
Yes.
Day two, she comes back again. My baby is ill. You're like, okay. Babies get ill day two. Day three, did you set up the business so that you are dealing baby ill health every day? And then when you react, the statement is, oh, but she's a woman herself. She should know, that I have a baby. So I think that we undo ourselves in those ways. Now, there's a fourth way in which I think that we can undo ourselves, and I actually have the antidote. So I don't think that we give each other enough feedback. No, we don't. And I'll explain it. I remember sitting in an interview with a young girl who had great accomplishments, and she referred to her accomplishments in the third person in one casual manner. If you see the big things she had accomplished. So I left her. Eventually, she didn't get the job, and once I was clear that another person had the role, and the person was settled and we had moved on, I found her somewhere and I called her. I said, You interviewed the other day for X and X role a couple of months ago, and you treated the work you had done in the third person. You left the panel thinking maybe you didn't do it directly or you were selling somebody else's idea. She said, no, I did it myself. I said, by yourself? She said, I said, then when next you are saying it, you use I. You use stronger words that own it. Have you ever seen when a man has done something?
Even if it's something tiny, you package it, you will be so blown away.
Correct.
But we women will make it,
Yes.
It's just like...
Correct. So I said to her, don't do that again. And she said, you know what? I've never had this feedback before. Thank you so much. I'll never do it again. So I think that's one way in which we can help show each other up.
A place of feedback.
Yes.
I've never thought of it like that.
Yes.
That's very, very, very instructive. Wow. Okay, we have to go on a short break now, but I'm learning. I've read the book and I learned a lot. Listening, I'm learning so much more. We'll be right back, still talking about the pressure cooker. Yeah, welcome back to Chapters. And it's been a very educative episode talking about the pressure cooker and women being, whatever your definition of success is, how to achieve it. Talking with Mrs. Nkiru Olumide-Ojo. So before we went on the break, you were sharing with us how women don't give one another feedback. And that will take me to the place of mentoring. And you said in your book as well that you wish you had a mentor earlier that would have guided you through some of these things that it was later in life you saw.
True.
And you started something called the Lighthouse. So tell us why mentoring is important and then what you did in order to also then mentor other young women.
Right. So, I mean, I think that mentoring is important because if anyone can help you get on your journey faster and sometimes help you, avoid mistakes. I think when I think of a picture, I think about you being in a dark room or a not so bright room, and the mentor is the one who has the touchlight and is saying, okay, this way and that way, let's go. Don't fall into that hole. That's the picture that I have. And that said, I think that sponsorship of women is very important. And a sponsor is the person who amplifies your qualifications for opportunities.
Amplifies your qualifications.
Yes, she's the one that says, so they say, oh, we need somebody to be the Minister of Women Affairs. She's like, do you know Tony? I know how. Just let me give you her resume. This is her resume, And that's who a sponsor is.
Fantastic.
Now, with the Lighthouse Network, I thought that all of my talk, talk is cheap. I thought that all of my talk would go to waste if I didn't have something that is structured to be able to give back. And so I started the Lighthouse Network so that we could have a definitive structuring, mentoring approach to helping younger ladies, get up their business or their career ladders. So what do? We get young ladies, we profile them, understand their areas of interest and their areas of growth. We find, and that's why it's called a network, because half the time this is from my personal network or, network of my friends. We find people who, can match up with their aspirations, and we pair them. And we give them a structure to say, you have, in a 6-month period, you have a minimum of twice for physical meets, the rest you can do virtually. Because life is busy, people have things. And this is what you do for them, this is how you report, and at the end of it, we see what has happened to you, and you can't be a mentee forever. We graduate you away, and we get another person.
Okay, before we end with the book, you talked about your failures.
Yes.
Because like you said, it's not that everybody thinks, she's had it rosy, life has been good, she's here now. Tell us some of the things that you truly, over the years, saw that you failed at. And so how did you handle your failures over the years?
And thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about failing, because I think that's where, like you say, there's an opportunity for growth, and you don't leave people with the impression that life is a walk in the park. It's not. So I failed in not learning EQ very early. I think that some people found EQ very early and have done brilliantly well. I grew up in Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt is a no-holds-barred society. You feel something, you say it. There's no one is querying anybody here. And the nature is to speak up. And, I'm one of those people who because of where I grew up, we'll sit in a meeting and somebody is making a decent presentation with an audience, and she said 4.4 is 5. Oh, next thing you hear is 5. How is it 5? When did 4.4 become 5? No, it can't be. You're wrong.
Wow.
And everybody will be like, yeah, who is this? So I think that those things held me back, from advancing. I think that if I had a woman who said to me, yeah, they don't say all those things like that with all of your mouth. No. You should first tell her, all right, because she's putting an effort in putting forward the presentation. And perhaps it's only 0.5 of it that's not right, and the remaining 90 whatever is
okay.
So why don't you just say, I'm sure you're putting a lot to do this, great, but just looking at the numbers, there might be something probably incorrect. You want to have a look at it. So I think I failed in not having EQ from day one. And I talked earlier about understanding cultures, organizational cultures, and how to navigate. I, for a long time, thought that everything you see is how it is. That's a fallacy. That's a big fallacy. It's not how it is. Like I said, when the Brit tells you, oh, that's fine. You've got to understand if he's being polite.
Something else that he's not saying.
Yes. So that as well. And then I think that I learned collaboration only later on in life, in the course of my career. I thought, I think I had a star mentality. If you've passed your schoolwork, you've passed your work, you passed the exam, nobody gave you a you're all right. You passed, you moved on. So you're a star.
It's all about you.
And that's wrong. Most standard organizations are looking for collaborators, not stars. And I'll credit my husband for, guiding me through my career. The sorts of conversations he had with me at home, even to help me see my failures, were phenomenal.
Wow.
He was one that said to me, after listening, he said to me, right, I know what the problem is. I said, what? He said, you have a star mentality. I said, you're joking. He said, that's what the problem is. People don't like stars, though. They like collaborators.
Wow.
Yes, they want you to all hold hands together and make it work. So those were the sorts of things that I failed at. And I think that also understanding a few home truths, and which is everywhere you find humans are political by nature.
Yes.
So there will be politics. So just having your nose up in the air, like I say it as it is, I'm not political. It doesn't mean the next one is not political.
You're your own if you're
your own. So it's just all of those nuances. I think I had to learn them. Some people, I think, arrive, at work equipped with them.
So one of the things that I also want to talk about is the place of faith in your career.
I think that faith is a critical part of who I am. And it's such an anchor. I talk about my faith being, a restraint. And how is it a restraint? It's a restraint in the values, that guide or have guided me as I work. The things that you shouldn't do, based on your principles and the faith that you believe in.
Yes.
I think also that my faith is a lot of comfort, because you will face challenges, in the course of work. And
in life,
sometimes I literally feel myself borrowing my head, in the face of God, and just hiding myself, in there. And I think that's one place that the pressures of work cannot get me. It's one hiding place. And then I often say to people that there's a place for time and chance. There's 7 billion people in the world now. There has to be that factor, if I can call it that. And I think that is that place of God making ways for you and making openings that, can help you come ultimately into your own in the course of your career.
Thank you for sharing that.
True pleasure. Thank you
so
for having me.
Thank you. If you're sharp and hardworking and smart and you have EQ, you will get a copy of this book. We've talked through it, but reading it would give you deeper understanding, because truly speaking, if you want to be a success in whatever definition of success you've chosen, this would help to give you at least the basic knowledge and how you need to begin to think about life and about moving up in life. I thank you for writing this book.
Thank you so much.
Small but mighty. I finished it in maybe one sitting.
Really?
And because of the way you wrote it, I just kept turning and trying to say, no, what's the next chapter? What did she say after this one? And I was like, that was the end.
So much, Jane.
Amazing book. Where can people get copies?
So there are copies in all the major bookstores in Lagos, a few in Port Harcourt, Abuja, Uyo, Ibadan. And then the online stores, Jumia and Konga, and rovingheightsbooks.com. So it's rhbooks.com. She's a distributor, doing great stuff distributing.
Okay. So you can get it anywhere, and then it's at Terra Culture.
Oh, it's a Terra Culture as well. I've got Terra Culture.
I got another copy at Terra Culture because I remember. I got a signed copy at Terra Culture, actually. So, but thank you so much for coming.
True pleasure and honor. Thank you
for coming
so
from
much.
work. Thank you. Thank you. It's been, like I said, what we like to do here is educate ourselves on lessons we can learn from life to make sure that we live to the fullest of our potential. This is an amazing book for women, but even also for men. The principles in it are universal. It doesn't matter what gender it is that you are. Get a copy of this book and arm yourself with knowledge. And remember, it is not about what you know, but what you do with what you know. Thank you for watching Chapters today, and until the next episode, God bless you.